What is a sensory story? A sensory story is a simple retelling of a story with accompanying sensory experiences. It's carried out in a small group. Who are sensory stories for? Sensory stories are ideal for children who find it difficult to access spoken language or those who find it challenging to sit and focus during class storytime sessions. Sensory stories. Why do we use sensory stories? There are many benefits to using sensory stories. These include developing a child's listening and shared attention skills, supporting their understanding of spoken language and key vocabulary, enabling children to explore new sensory experiences in a safe, supportive environment. Revisiting stories again and again can help develop their responses to different sensory experiences, providing opportunities for children to engage in a motivating and enjoyable shared activity with others. Getting started. A sensory story works best with a small group of 5 to 6 children with 2 adults. One adult leads the activity by telling the story and providing the sensory experiences. The second adult sits with the children to model good listening and attention, whilst helping and encouraging them to explore the sensory experiences on offer. Find a quiet space, free from distractions. This can be inside or outside the classroom. Choosing a story. Almost any children's picture book can be turned into a sensory story. Here are some of our favourites. We're Going on a Bear Hunt, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, Rosie's Walk, Whatever Next, Room on the Broom, and fairy stories such as The Three Little Pigs, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and The Enormous Turnip works really well. Turning a story into a sensory story. Unlike a typical story time, a sensory story session doesn't just involve reading the story and sharing pictures. Start by simplifying the text where necessary to reduce the amount of language used. Choose simple keyword language and repeated phrases. When you come to retell the story, use lots of vocal, facial expressions and use Makaton signs and gesture to accompany the spoken language to help convey meaning. Here are some examples of sensory stories. Brown Bear, Whatever Next, Owl Babies, The Snail and the Whale, Room on the Broom, Dear Zoo, Barry, The Fish with Fingers, and Handa's Surprise. Planning sensory experiences. Think about how key events in the story can be turned into a sensory experience, something that the children can watch, touch, smell, taste, hear, or experience through movement. We're going on a bear hunt. The family walk through a swirling, whirling snowstorm. Make this into a sensory experience for the children by squirting crazy foam into their hands and then demonstrating how they can create snow by clapping their hands together. This engages a number of senses: smell, the scent of the crazy foam; touch, the feel of the crazy foam; sight, watching the crazy foam create a snow effect when it is squashed. Incorporating different senses. Sound. Use sound buttons which the children can press to hear repeated phrases in stories. We're going on a bear hunt. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. These can also be used to record sounds to represent different characters, the animals in Room on a Broom. Use musical instruments to create sound effects. Tap a drum for the sound of Goldilocks knocking on the door of the bear's house. Use voice-changing microphones so that children can talk like different characters. A squeaky voice for the baby bear in Goldilocks. Touch. Provide cuddly toys or puppets of story characters for the children to pass around and hold. A teddy bear for We're Going on a Bear Hunt or Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Resources that the story characters use. Give the children a colander for a space helmet to try on like Baby Bear and Whatever Next, or give them a blanket so they can pretend to sleep like Goldilocks. Offer objects to hold and touch, such as a turnip for the enormous turnip, a ribbon for the witch's hair on Room on the Broom, a bowl of flour when the fox gets covered in flour in Rosie's Walk. Use a plant sprayer to spray water into the air so the children can experience rain, or a big splash when the fox falls into the lake in Rosie's Walk. Put messy sensory materials in Ziploc bags for children that don't like getting their hands dirty, to create a sensory experience without too much mess. Taste. Give children in the group a spoon so that they can taste the three bears' porridge or some fruit eaten by the hungry caterpillar. Smell. Provide opportunities for children to smell objects that are linked to the story that they are listening to. Flowers, found around the lake in Rosie's Walk. Types of fruit, eaten by the hungry caterpillar. Sight. Use whiteboards to provide background scenes to stories. Share a storybook pictures or move characters across a storyboard to visually retell the story. Create different effects by turning off lights, pulling down blinds to make the room darker, or turn on all the lights. Use torches to make it brighter. Use fibre optic lights or mirror balls to create space effects. Movement. Use gesture and Makaton signs for the children to copy at key parts of the story. Act out parts of the story. Pretend to walk through sticky mud on We're Going on a Bear Hunt, or pull up an enormous turnip. And finally, revisit sensory stories so the children can become familiar with the different sensory experiences. And remember to have fun.